Megalithomania and the Planetary Grid, presented by Hugh Newman. Hugh gives an overview of the distribution of ancient megalithic sites, lays, pyramids and earth energies around the world.
And so the question I'm really going to ask in this talk is, does the distribution of megalithic sites suggest there is a grid over the planet? So I'm going to have a quick overview of some of the great Earth circles that go around our planet. You can see some of the possibilities in this slide here. And then we're going to go more deeply into different ideas about what the grid is and how it functions and what it means. So I want to start at Wandlebury because Wandlebury is my home, is right next to my hometown of Cambridge. It's just southeast of Cambridge. And I spent a lot of my childhood here and didn't really know anything about it. And it wasn't really until about 5 years ago that information started coming through about Wandlebury, especially when some of the crop circles appeared there, which we'll have a look at in a moment. Now, Wandlebury, officially, is an Iron Age hill fort, which isn't exactly true because it's now been proved that it goes back to Neolithic times, roughly the same time as Stonehenge, Avebury, etc. A lot of the sites we've been looking at this weekend. There's been a lot of unusual phenomena at Wandlebury. I've personally seen video footage of UFOs. There's been lots of strange occurrences on Wormwood Hill. This is Wormwood Hill here. You can just sort of see it's like a man-made mound. You can't see it very clearly here, but it's like a mini Silbury Hill. Potentially it was a kind of pyramidical structure there as well. This is where lots of people have had ghost sightings. Andrew Collins, in one of his early books, spoke about it, about a guy who had an experience there of having visions of white-robed priests going over the top of it. So it's got a bit of a history as Wandlebury, a bit of an esoteric history, if you like. This image up here, this image up here is a chalk hill figure, which is on the south edge of the sloping hill of Wandlebury. This was rediscovered by Tom Lethbridge, or T.C. Lethbridge. He's written a book about it called Gog Magog. You should note the whole of the hills, the area around Cambridge, is the Gog Magog Hills. This is the famous crop circle that appeared in 2001. Just east of Wandlebury. It became known as the Angel Crop Circle. What we found very interesting about this, because at the time I was very into dowsing and sort of trying to understand earth energies, and we already had an understanding of the Michael and Mary lines that run through this area. And what had happened, this particular crop circle had shifted the Mary line by about 100 feet away from its original position, which had been dowsed a few years earlier. So we found that quite interesting. And what happened is, for those that are interested in the earth energy and the way it moves, originally it kind of was over here somewhere, and then it got moved and it came up through here, done a little dance there, and then went back to its original course, which I haven't really heard too much about this previously with other crop circles moving earth energy around. There's also, you'll notice the sort of inner circles here. There's sort of several inner circles, and they all touch on one edge. In the Wandlebury earthwork layout, because it's like a sort of henge, a very large henge, that there were actually 3 inner ditches, and they had the same, very similar geometry to this, where they were all leaning over to one side. So perhaps this crop circle was given a clue as to the dimensions of Wandlebury. Anyway, we're going to come on to Wandlebury in Edmund Marriage's talk in a lot more detail. So this is the Michael and Mary line. Wandlebury is just up here. And obviously we're kind of down here now, this area. So I've been brought up near the Mary line, and I'm now living right next to the Mary line. In fact, the Mary line's just up the road up there, so if everyone wants to visit it, it's very close. When I first saw this image, and when I first read the book by Hamish Miller and Paul Broadhurst, I immediately thought, where's the rest of it? I kind of had an inkling it must go kind of around the world. And this kind of started me thinking about potential Earth circles that go around the whole planet, and if any other cultures are involved, have any understanding of this too. Also made me start really looking at the ideas of a planetary grid as well, which really came to the fore about 3 or 4 years ago when I met some of these psychic children in Hawaii, and they kind of initiated me into working on the grid. Still not sure what I'm doing, but I'm kind of doing the right thing. So we look at the next image. Yeah. So how the Michael and Mary line were found was when Hamish Miller and Paul Broadhurst went to dowse this particular alignment that was sort of rediscovered by John Michell in the 60s or 70s. How he found this particular alignment was by noticing that Burramump and Glastonbury Tor kind of looked fairly similar, and drew a line between them, and then continued the line across South England, and he found this particular alignment, which is very interesting, and it's got a lot of people thinking, and it really opened up the whole idea of very long ley lines on Earth energies around the planet and especially across our country. So, yes, this is the sort of global version of the Michael and Mary lines. We can see here, this is kind of England. You see the big blotches of colour here. These are supposedly the chakras of the planet, according to Robert Kuhn, who was one of the original Glastonburyans about 20 years ago. He was living here doing this research. He never really went out to dowse these lines or to map them out with a GPS device or anything like that, but he was a visionary, and he came up with this kind of map, and he went to a lot of these main points here and kind of created what he calls the rainbow serpent, and this one here being the rainbow serpent, and this one here being the plumed serpent, which are Earth circles, which is the first kind of Earth circle we're looking at today, if you like, which kind of starts to fit into the grid pattern, as we will soon see. One of his main things was really understanding some of these points as chakra points. Interestingly, Glastonbury and the Shaftesbury area, a lot of people think it's actually Glastonbury Tor, is the heart chakra of the planet, which is nice. And also, it's also the 6th chakra, the third eye chakra, which is the mutable chakra, which moves around the planet at various times. At the moment, it's in Glastonbury, so we're pretty lucky at the moment. I'm not sure how long that's going to last for, though. This is another interesting Earth circle that Robin Heath kind of discovered. I quite like this one, actually. Only really kind of had a proper look at this fairly recently. So I'll just get my notes together. So this one, Stonehenge, that's the main kind of point on this one. But also the Preseli Mountains site where the large blue stones came from for Stonehenge. We'll have a little look at the lunation triangle in a minute so we get some understanding of that. But this one basically goes through Delphi, Giza, through the pyramids. It goes through Mecca. It goes all the way around through the Ohio Serpent Mound and through Sligo in Ireland. And this is part of another one of Robin Heath's discoveries, which I'm sure he might mention later, which is this, which I'm not going to even try to explain now, because it's a bit difficult and it will take quite a long time. But basically, these points here, these 4 corners, are the same as the 4 station stones in Stonehenge. and when enlarged 2,500 times from Stonehenge down here, it's repeated like this. And this line here hits the Bluestone site where the stones from some of the stones from Stonehenge came from. And this is Lundy Island here. And this line here is the line of the Great Earth Circle, which continues all the way around the planet. Interestingly, for me, it goes through Giza, because there's some speculation that the Egyptians were partly involved in the construction of Stonehenge. This is another great big ley line, which was the subject of another book by Paul Broadhurst and Hamish Miller. This is the Apollo-Michael axis, this particular one. But they also found two interlocking Earth energy lines, a male and a female, wiggling around it, all the way down, from right up there to right down there. And it goes through some of the major sites here, particularly when it starts weaving in and out, it goes through lots of Apollo and Athena sites, and Michael and Mary churches and sites also. Dodona, Delphi, and Delos here were known about, I think about 50 or 60 years ago by some other researchers, and they knew about this particular alignment then. So they decided to, Hamish Miller, Paul Broadhurst, decided to expand it both ways and came up with this quite amazing book, which I've been reading recently. Another interesting point between Delos, Delphi, and Dodona is that they're all 1 degree of latitude apart, fairly precisely. So it suggests the ancients who were involved in this area here had an understanding of longitude and latitude. The thing about understanding the longitude and latitude I will come on to shortly when we start to look at how harmonically around the Earth some of the sites are located. Okay, this is, just spotted this actually the other day, and I thought I'd just bung it in because it's quite interesting. Just discovered it on a random part of the internet. This point here in the Atlantic Ocean, if you draw a line to all these sites, the Great Pyramid, Easter Island, Palenque, Zibalchautan in Mexico, Stonehenge, the Acropolis, and Thera, they're all exactly an equal distance from this point here, which I thought was rather interesting. And it also will create another circle around the planet. If this is, speculatively, it could have something to do with Atlantis, which don't really want to go into, actually. Yeah, this is the kind of circle that it forms. You can see the little white dots kind of in various places, there and places, and it creates another Earth circle. So we're starting to see there are some major Earth circles which are precisely aligned all the way around the planet. So does this then suggest that there was some design in this, or is it just a crazy coincidence? That is the big question. Okay, now we go on to Scott Olsen's favourite subject, the golden section. Now, some of these sites are linked by certain amounts of miles around the planet, which create a golden section fraction. And we can see here that Angkor Wat, Giza, and Nazca are the key sites in this particular one I'm looking at. This distance here, 4,745 miles from Angkor to Giza. From Giza to Nazca, 7,677 miles. When you times that by 1.618, you get that. And so it's suggesting the golden section design at certain major sites around the planet. This isn't the only suggestion of golden section knowledge available through the grid. There's quite a lot of this going on. This is the famous White Pyramid in China, and there's quite a lot of pyramids out there actually, recently been rediscovered, up to tens or hundreds of them even. And some of them are extremely large, but a lot of them have been grown over now. So with this one here, I've got to check my notes for this. Yeah, if you go from the North Pole down to the point of the White Pyramid, and then down to the equator, that creates another golden section alignment throughout the curvature of the Earth. So this keeps happening, and there's actually a very good book called The Atlantis Blueprint by Colin Wilson and Rand Flamath, and they've done a lot of research into this golden section alignments all around the planet, and they keep finding similar things. So there seems to be some understanding on a global scale of these sites around the planet, and as was mentioned yesterday, it's like the first sign of globalization many thousands of years ago. This is another interesting little anomaly. Kind of fits in with Andrew Collins' talk last night, actually, because we saw last night in Andrew Collins' talk that these don't exactly fit with the Sirius, with Orion precisely. They're slightly off. It kind of ends off a little bit over to one side. When you put Cygnus over it, it fits perfectly. So kind of quite a bit of new information there. But these are the Chinese pyramids. You can see how similar they are to the Giza pyramids, and also to the Teotihuacan in Mexico, just near Mexico City. They all kind of have a very similar alignment, suggesting they were either mapping Orion onto the landscape or Cygnus, according to Andrew Collins. So, we're going to go back to Giza. One of the most important aspects of looking at any kind of grid research around the planet is to find where the prime meridian is. This is really the key, because then you can harmonically work out where things are from the prime meridian all around the whole Earth. So a lot of people felt that the prime meridian really should be in Giza. Obviously it's in Greenwich. There was a huge debate about this back in the 1880s, and there was a committee of 25 countries were debating where to put the prime meridian on the planet because they weren't decided. The English wanted it in Greenwich because they felt that's where most of the boats and the ferry would sort of pull up and go from. Charles Piazzi Smythe, an Egyptologist, he felt, he was also the Astronomer Royal of Scotland, he felt it should go through Giza because there was the most landmass in any direction from this particular point. Just around this area here, also where not precisely here, but just this whole kind of area. He felt it should go right through the middle of the Great Pyramid, because it's the most notable site on the Earth. It's the most recognisable site for anyone who's interested in this kind of stuff. The French, they wanted it going through Paris, this, that, and the other, and it kind of got to quite a debate. So eventually, if this had have become 0 degrees longitude, then we can actually start looking at the grid in a slightly different way, because we can see that all around the planet, when you take away the we know that Greenwich is 31 degrees 8 minutes east. This is 31 degrees 8 minutes east of Greenwich. But when it comes back here, then we look at some of the sites around the planet, all the numbers become really harmonic to where their grid coordinates are. I'll just give you some very simple examples. Easter Island, for instance, becomes 140 degrees west. Teotihuacan and Tula in Mexico become 130 degrees west. Copan, Tikal, and Quirigua, they become 120 degrees west. So this was noticed. This was also taken up by Carl Monk, who's a brilliant archaeocryptographer who's been researching this stuff for years, and he's got some books and videos out called The Code, where when he decided to put the prime meridian back through here, all the sites on the planet become a code, and we can actually unlock secrets of the sites by understanding his formulas. And it's a very simple formula. It's just I can't really go into it now because it's a lot of information and lots of mathematics, but just generally it's about when you go to a sacred site, you just count the stones, you count the levels, you can see if there's circles there and so on, and just check out the basic mathematics that you see in front of your eyes. And he's found that through simple observations and simple mathematics, he believes that every single sacred site on the planet encodes within its own structure its longitude and latitude precisely, but only if the prime meridian of the planet is here and not at Greenwich. Do you get me? Yeah. So this is a big subject to get into, but it just gives you an idea of, it looks like this was the prime meridian of the planet many thousands of years ago, and all the sites were worked from there. Yes, so if we go 120 degrees west of Giza, we get this interesting sort of grid line here, if you like. Up here we've got Rock Lake, Wisconsin, which is an interesting pyramidical structure underneath a lake, which is definitely underwater, and for it to have been above water would have been many thousands of years ago. We've also got Tikal here, and Uxmal around here. And these are other key sites. There's also lots of other of the Mexican and Guatemalan pyramids in this area. Yes, also if we look at the Earth from above, sort of, we can see Giza here, and then 120 degrees around the Earth, we've got Tikal, another 120 degrees around, because it's 360 obviously. We've got Yonaguni, which is off the coast of Japan, which is many underwater structures, pyramidical structures that have been discovered there. So if we can look at Tikal briefly, I've got some just a quick look at some of Karl Munk's coordinates and codes here. On the top level of Tikal, on the temple at the top of one of the main pyramids, at Temple 1, it's 24.9015 feet. Now, according to some people, the equatorial circumference of the Earth is 24,901.5 miles. So we have a harmonic, just by moving the fraction, of the planet of the equatorial circumference of the Earth here, just as a simple encoded piece of information into Karl. Now, this is the kind of stuff Karl Munk was getting up to and has been getting up to for the last 20 years. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at the sort of the classic planetary grid design. We're going to start looking into some of the geometries. This just shows you the basic icosahedral grid. We've got England, Britain up there, and obviously this line here would be the prime meridian if it goes all the way down, with Giza, the Nile Delta here. Now, a researcher called Ivan P. Sanderson was looking at the Bermuda Triangle for many years, and he was a bit of a mysteries researcher amongst other things, and he found that around the Earth at certain points there were certain unusual phenomena happening, and similar to this kind of stuff that happens in the Bermuda Triangle, disappearances, vortices and so forth. There was a Devil's Triangle off Japan. There's also an area off the coast of Hawaii, and these all fitted into certain places around the planet. And he found that if he joined all the dots up from his discoveries, he found that it formed an icosahedral grid around the planet. So this kind of set the ball rolling for other researchers to kind of take this on and look into this as a possible idea. Oops, okay. Oh. A bit too soon, that one. So yeah, this image here, this was kind of put together by a selection of Russian scientists. I'm not going to tell you their names. what they did, they took Ivan P. Sanderson's research and they decided to superimpose a dodecahedron, which is a 12-sided polygon, on with the icosahedron. Because one of the things with the Platonic solids, as we will come to shortly, is that the points of the dodecahedron touch the faces of the icosahedron, and vice versa. All will be explained. And this is kind of what they came up with, which is the first kind of indication of some type of planetary grid formula. What they found very quickly was that this particular line here kind of followed the major fault line going through the Atlantic Ocean. They started to notice that it showed migratory paths of animals and birds and so forth all around the planet. And this kind of was stepped up a gear. Okay. 1 second, I've just got the wrong slide. Okay, no, maybe it is the right one. Yeah, okay, we'll jump onto the UFO connection now, then we'll go back to that. This is the reason I wanted to bring the UFOs into it is because of the work of Bruce Cathy, an amazing New Zealand researcher and pilot who was doing a lot of research and started noticing when he was out flying his planes and he was on the boats in the Navy that he kept spotting UFOs and he kept seeing them so frequently he decided to check where they were, what latitude and longitude they were, and started mapping them out. And he came up with this particular kind of map here, these little points here where he spotted the UFOs. You can kind of see them all over the place. And he developed this map of New Zealand and a grid map of New Zealand that they were only all the UFOs that were spotted, that were plotted, were only on these particular lines. And each of these lines is 30 nautical miles apart, which fits into perfect sort of Earth geometries. He also unknowingly, with this system here, he had a bit of a flash of inspiration, got a balloon and put a pen all over it and came up with this kind of rough idea. And he discovered the cube and the octahedron inside the sphere. So the other grid we looked at was the icosahedron and the dodecahedron. And so he made a very interesting discovery here. Yeah, this is, oops, daisy. Yeah, this is the, okay, yeah, that's the one. This is the sort of planetary grid system we all use. It's a combination of what we've looked at already. This was developed by William Becker and Beth Hargens, who are a husband and wife team from America, professors, anthropology and so forth, and they kind of took some of the geometries of Buckminster Fuller and harnessed it into the Russians' design, keeping an eye on Bruce Cathy's work as well, and came up with this interesting formula that keeps cutting out, doesn't it? Okay. And so yeah, I'm just going to walk over here and grab this, because this is a 3D version of kind of what we're looking at. We've also got an image up on the screen shortly. This is kindly brought over all the way from America by Dan Shaw, who's here somewhere. So thank you for that. And this kind of shows you the geometry. Obviously, the Earth is in this shape. This is just a representation. But it ends up, the geometry they've ended up with is actually a rhombic triicontohedron. Yeah, I'm not going to say it again. Yeah. But you'll have to read the books to find out more. But again, you just look at this for long enough. So if you all look at it very carefully, see this point here, for instance, South America. You can see that little sort of curves around there, doesn't it, around the grid point. Again here, there's a point there. Big, great, it's got a hole in Australia there. It kind of just shapes the continents quite neatly. So is that to do with that? I don't know. But also we've got the prime meridian. Well, it should be there, really, rather than here, sort of there somewhere. So we can just sort of see how I firmly believe that this is pretty much the best version of the grid, especially when you just keep looking at it and keep seeing more in it. I mean, we'll just have a look at the European version, hopefully. Yeah, there we go. It's a bit complex, this one, but nonetheless it's actually very interesting. Yeah, we see England here, or Britain, and this is, if you just join all the dots up, basically, you get all this kind of stuff going on. These are some of the key sites. You've got Delphi again, which is quite interesting. I mean, this line here is very, very similar to the Apollo-Athena axis. It would go up there through the southern tip of Ireland and go all the way through Delphi. So it kind of does correspond quite neatly with the Earth circles. We've started looking at some of the longer ley lines. Also here, you can see how it kind of neatly shows the St. Michael alignment. We'll have a better look at these. Yeah, this is a sort of better version. Yeah, you can't really, it's very similar. It's actually, a little bit off, but I'm not sure, it's very similar. It's also interesting that Clava, Long Meg are below. Some of the key kind of megalithic sites are along this particular alignment. Yeah, this is from this design, when on a sphere we have 15 great circles appear and an equator with the Earth, and these are the great circles, and it just shows you, just quickly shows you the dodecahedron and the octahedron and how they kind of link up. If we join all the dots up, and the grand design does encompass all the 5 platonic solids, we get this complicated looking thing with 121 great circles on it. So I'm going to have to kind of whip through these. Ooh. Yeah, this is the kind of 3D version, sort of another version of this one, really. And it just shows the basic kind of geometry that is in the Earth. This shows it kind of outside the Earth, but I'm not quite sure if it's actually like that. I think it's more in the Earth and around the surfaces and where they will join up and so forth. So yeah, you can see some. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford. You might have seen some of these images in John Martineau's talk yesterday. These hundreds of these were discovered up in northeast Scotland and various other parts of Europe, and they clearly show the 5 platonic solids. Obviously, sometime before Plato was even alive, actually, at least 1,000 years previously. Other researchers say they're up to 12,000 years old, which might be stretching it a little bit. But it just shows you that the ancients had an understanding of spherical geometry, and they potentially were using these in their understanding of world grid, or some of these Earth circles around the planet. Yeah, this is just shows you a bit of so you can see them a bit more clearly. Now, I just found out a few days ago that one of these that was discovered, or some of them that were discovered, one of them was actually a cube and an octahedron combined, which sort of backs up Bruce Cathy's work, because that was his main discovery. I haven't got a picture of that one though. And Keith Critchlow, where I've got most of these images of these stone polyhedra from, said that they would definitely for the study, comparison and analysis of spherically determined systems of geometry. So they weren't hunting projectiles, as some archaeologists once thought. They actually had some other use, which, to the bewilderment of some, anyway. Oh, crikey, back again. Yeah, this is, okay. Yes, that's the one. The Pires Res map from around 1523. Much older than 1523. It was developed from lots of much older maps. You'll have to look at Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings by Charles Hapgood to get the full download about this. But what it does show, this is what Becker and Hargens found out, is that it actually shows quite clearly the same geometries as their version of the planetary grid from the same points. So what's going on there? Did these ancient mariners and so forth have an understanding of this particular planetary grid system? Yeah, we just sort of this is the sort of classic dodecahedron here, and the 15 great circles around the planet. And this is a quote that Plato sort of paraphrased of what Plato said, that when viewed from above, the Earth looks like a ball sewn together from 12 pieces of skin, which would be the dodecahedron officially, but they weren't allowed to say anything about the dodecahedron in their times, or they'd be killed for some reason. There is an idea that it wasn't the dodecahedron that Plato was actually trying to hide. It was actually this one here, which is the combination of all the platonic solids. Yeah, again, we're just sort of covering this again for some reason. The line of the grid and the Michael line, very similar. Yeah, this just shows you a better kind of picture. It just shows you, it compares them. This is the Michael axis and also the Michael and Mary line, or the rainbow serpent, because this is the one that goes all the way around the planet, the one we looked at, the Robert Kuhn's research. And this is the just the grid line, which is very, very similar. I've tried to kind of... there's a program John Martineau's got, which we're going to kind of suss this one out properly, because I think they do kind of go together, but I think there's just... I think the grid might just be a fraction off, and I don't think they've actually been to these sites and mapped them out with GPS devices or anything. This is Clava, this is this one here, and this is Long Meg. You can see they've both got, this has got very interesting carvings on both of them. Yeah, it's just a close-up for those that want to have a better look. Yeah, and again, a bit more of a close-up of this one, which I just wanted to sort of, this line here particularly fascinates me, because this is pretty much the same as the Apollo-Athena axis, which I think I mentioned twice already. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, cool, cheers. I'm not going to read that out, but you can read that. This is just one of the Hopi creation myths, which does actually back up the idea of there being a grid structure which kind of holds the planet together and so forth. Let me know when you've finished. Yeah, is that cool? You done? Okay. This is, I'm just going to run through, I've got a couple of minutes left. Just this is from the Book of Enoch. It goes way back, one of the missing books from the Bible. And this is one of the sort of key quotes from it, if you like. And it just explains how the angels, whatever the angels were, which I think Edmund Marriage might explain more clearly in his talk, they've taken cords and gone off to measure, potentially to survey the earth. So, yeah. Yeah, and I want to just quickly look at the latest kind of, well, about 40s and 50s, a guy called Ed Liskleninin, oh God, I can't say his name, built something called Coral Castle on the coast, just off the coast near Florida. Actually, this is a planetary grid point, which I thought was interesting, considering that he's building megalithic structures on his own, with no one else, using no particular, just very simple pulleys and levers and so forth. And he's moving blocks weighing up to 30 tons without any help from anyone else. This is the 9-ton gate. This is quite famous. It looks a bit like Stonehenge, but it actually revolves, and you can just push it, and it just revolves like any revolving door. And it actually broke a few years ago, and they had a look at it and found that it had it'd been cut right through the middle perfectly and it's a part of a car. I think the wheel brace was actually sort of helping it revolve, and how he drilled the hole through that with no equipment is a bit of a mystery. And he never let anyone see him build anything at his place either, which is a bit of a mystery. Just got some other images here if Well, actually, yeah, there we go. This is a 25 feet obelisk weighing 28 tons, which is one of his sort of key, one of his main parts of his complex. But it just shows you that he never actually gave clues to how he did it. All he said is that he's discovered the secrets of the ancient Egyptians and how they built the pyramid. And that's all he said, and he died with his secrets with him. But because of the whole point being on the planetary grid, there's theories that there's a lot of you can manipulate gravity and anti-gravity at these points, which I don't really have time to go into today. This is one of the only images of him actually seen working, because he did it all on his own with no help, and someone managed to get a sneaky shot of him, which is nice. Okay, it's not good. Okay, well, I'm going to tie it up there. Thank you. Cheers.
This has been a Megalithomania audio production. For more information, visit megalithomania.co.uk.